Well, that was Snowbound. If you guys weren't there, you missed out, and that's okay. Next week, or not next week, next year, you should be there. And we've got like summer camp, all other kinds of camps. You should come to those. That was a lot of fun. Who went to Snowbound over the last weekend? Who had a good time? Yeah, that's what I like to hear. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Broke your scream? That's good. Yeah, if you want that video, I'm sure I can find a way to send it to you. I can like airdrop it to you later or something. Wow, that's so cool. Crazy. All right, hey. Let me have the ball. Yeah. I don't care. Give me the ball. Thank you. Here you go, Mason. All right. That was Snowbound. It was a great time. What are you guys doing? Just chill. You can hug later, okay? It's just weird. All right. So Snowbound was awesome. It was a great time. I'm so glad all of you were there. And the ones of you guys who weren't there, that's okay. It was a lot of fun. We missed you. We would have been so much happier if you were there, but that's okay, you know? We can't all go. It's all right. So tonight, we are jumping into a new series called Tug of War, okay? And we're going to be talking about a classic game called Tug of War, right? Who's ever played Tug of War when you were a kid? Or if you went to summer camp last year, we played it in a giant mud pit. That was pretty fun. Do you remember that? Yeah? You would have known if you were listening, huh? Crazy. Crazy. What? All right, that's what I thought. Cool. So we're going to jump into this series called Tug of War, right? And the idea here is kind of, we're going to, hey, 8th grade girls, shh, chill. All right, thank you. That's okay, it's okay. All right, so think about it like this, right? In life, there's a constant tug of war. If you are in school, right, say you're sitting in school, who sits by the teacher in school? Who has to sit by the teacher because you're like a bad kid? Yeah? Okay. Is it because you chose to or because you have to? You have to, yeah, see? There's always, it's either because you want to learn really well, or you're in trouble all the time, right? So let's say you're sitting by the teacher, you're sitting on your desk, and you see a $20 bill right by the teacher's desk, like on the floor, right? And so obviously you go pick it up because it's a $20 bill. And then you kind of have this little like internal debate in your head. You're like, should I keep this and just take it home and buy McDonald's with it? Or should I like give it to the teacher because it's probably hers? And you know, it's like, that's probably like the right thing to do. It's probably the teacher's. Or I could keep it and I could buy some candy. And you kind of go back and forth, right? It's almost like in the cartoons where they had like the little angel and the little devil on their shoulder, and like one's telling them to do one thing, and while other ones tell them to do the other thing, right? You have this whole little internal debate in your head about this like $20 bill, and then you decide what to do with it. If it was me and I was in middle school, I probably would have kept it. Hopefully you guys are better and you'd like give it to your teacher and be like, this is what you should give it back to them. It's probably theirs, right? If you know it's not yours, you should probably give it back. I probably wouldn't have done that in middle school because I wasn't the smartest, but that's okay, right? That is the little constant tug of war going on, though, in our minds, right? Whether you should be pulled one way or another. Should I do this thing or that thing? Hey, do we need to be separated here? All right, well, then let's chill out, okay? And right here? No? Cool. You just, that's what you sound like. Yeah. All right, so we're going to play a game of tug of war here, okay? What? No. Chill. All right, we're going to play a game of tug of war. I've got this nice rope here, so we're going to play a big game of tug of war with it, okay? So I'm going to need 6 volunteers to play this game, okay? All right, let's see. 1 and 2. I almost just fell. And we need a girl. 3, yeah. All right, and then, hey, that's my water bottle. Give me that back. Give me that back. Give me that. Give me the water bottle. All right, and I don't care. Go sit down. All right, where's the one team? Who's right here? All right, there's only 2 of you. Where's, oh, Cole, you were the other one, right? Yeah, you're over here. You're over here with them. No, just go over there. All right, let's see. We gotta make it pretty even, teams, okay? We need, let's see. We need a girl for this team. Which one of you didn't play the game? Okay, then you can be in the tug of war. All right, and then Let's see. Yeah, we'll do Stevie. You can play, and then we need one more, preferably a shorter person. Yeah, right there. Yeah. All right. Everybody else, sit down. Sit down. We got our people. Sit down in a chair so we can see what's going on here. Okay. Here you go. You're gonna grab the end of that rope, and you guys are gonna grab the end of this rope. And we're not going to start pulling until I say, okay? So let's see. It needs to go that way a little bit more, the whole rope. So everybody shift that way. Okay, there. That's good. That's good. All right. So listen up. Shh. You guys got to chill. All right. This is Team A, okay? This is Team B. One of these teams is the good guys, okay? And one of them is the bad guys. I'm not going to tell you which one, okay? But if the good guy team wins, I have a bucket of candy, and I'll throw it out to everybody if the good guy team wins, okay? If the bad guy team wins, nobody gets candy, okay? So you need to root for the good guy and not for the bad guy. But I'm not going to tell you which one it is, but I know, okay? So you want one of them to win, one of them you don't want to win, and we're going to decide who wins just, well, you know, pretty quickly. We'll be able to find out, okay? What are you doing? I don't want that. All right. Shh, sit down. All right. Are you guys ready, Team B? No? All right. Well, you get ready. We'll come back. Are you guys ready? Yeah? All right. Are you ready now? Whoa. No pulling yet. All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go! Uh-oh. It's close. If the people cross the middle, they're almost to the wall. Whoa. You cheated, but they already won anyway. They already won. It's over. Sit down. Everybody sit down. Now you're all disqualified, but that was, you guys are cheaters. Nobody wins. All right. So before all of you started cheating, all right, put the rope down and sit down. You two should never have been touching the rope. So, Gabe, give me the rope. All right, take a seat. Hey, sit down. I don't care, sit down. All right, so Stevie's team won, right? Team A. They were the bad guys, so no candy, okay? And even if the other team won, you guys were cheating, so disqualified. But, shh, guys, we need to just have a little bit more respect, okay? It's just kind of rude, okay? Thanks. That's all right. So, Team A was the bad guys. They won, so no candy. But maybe we'll get candy at the end because I have it anyway and I need to get rid of it. If we just keep it together for like 10 more minutes, then we can have, yeah, if you keep it together and just chill for like 10 minutes, okay? So, with that game, right, you didn't know who to cheer for because I didn't tell you who the bad guy was, right? You saw that Tug of War was going on, but you didn't know who to cheer for, right? You didn't know who the good guys were and who the bad guys were. And that's what the tug of war in our lives looks like a lot, right? It's not always as clear as a little devil on your shoulder and a little angel on your other shoulder. You can't always know who to cheer for, right? You're trying to be pulled in different directions, and you don't know if like, oh, do I want to be pulled this way, right? Let's say you have a decision, right? You have a decision to either hang out with friend A or friend B, right? And they're both cool friends, and you don't really know which one you should hang out with. But one of them, maybe, even though they're not like a bad friend or anything, they're going to take you somewhere where you're going to end up making a bad decision later on down the road, right? They take you to hang out with another friend, and then they go to another place, and you end up doing something dumb. But when you first chose to hang out with them, it didn't seem like a bad idea, and you weren't really sure which way to go. Maybe the other friend was going to take you to Garage, and you were going to learn about Jesus or something like that, right? You're not really sure which way to go, right? Just like in this game of tug of war, you didn't know who the enemy was. You didn't know who to cheer against, right? You didn't know who you were trying to see defeated, right? Unless I tell you who you're trying to see defeated, you don't know who to cheer for. And that's the point, right? We need to define the enemy, right? We need to know what we're fighting against, who we're fighting against, right? Otherwise, you can't defeat what you can't define, right? If you can't define the enemy, you can't defeat the enemy. So, yeah, very true. And it's just like that. There's a lot of stories in the Bible like this. And the story that we're going to get into in this series is the story of David and Goliath, okay? So the story of David and Goliath, I bet most of you guys have heard it before, right? There's a giant and there's a little guy with rocks. Yeah, see, you've heard it. But we're going to talk about a different part of it than normal. And then Savannah next week is going to kind of talk about the whole story a little bit more. But today we're just going to kind of go over a quick overview of David and Goliath, right? So David, he is this little kid, right? He's probably like maybe a little bit older than you guys. He's probably like 12 or something, right? And he's not like a huge guy or anything. And Goliath is a 9-foot giant. So think about like The Rock, okay? So think about The Rock, but The Rock's only like 6'4" or so. So if The Rock was like 4 feet taller and like way bigger, that's what Goliath would look like, right? A 9-foot person, right? That's like if I stand on this stool, then I'm almost 9 feet. Still not quite 9 feet. So this is a massive giant, okay? That's not anything like to joke around with. And then David is just like an average height kid, right? And he's like, I'm going to fight him. So Goliath is from these people called the Philistines. Everybody say Philistines. Philistines, okay? The Philistines and the Israelites is where David was from. They were fighting, right? They were at war. They were having this war, and they were just kind of camped out in this field, right? There was this battle going on, and they're just kind of camped out at this field. And every morning they kind of go out, and they're like, all right, we're going to like try and take a little more ground. It's almost like they're playing Tug of War. They're trying to just get a little more, just win a little bit more. But then Goliath shows up, and Goliath comes out every morning, and he's like, all right, if any one of you Israelites can come and beat me in a fight, we will surrender, and we will all be your slaves. And they're like, okay, well, you're 9 feet tall, so we probably can't do that, but maybe we'll think about it. And the Israelites are sitting there every day, and they're like, yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. We're kind of scared. He's 9 feet tall. We're all like average people, and we just have our little spears. And we probably can't fight this giant whose sword is probably just as big as me, right? He's 9 feet tall. He probably has like a 6-foot long sword. Like, he's not messing around. So then David shows up on the scene, right, in this story. David comes to bring his brothers some food. So his brothers are older, right? He's the little brother. Who's the little brother? Who has older brothers? Anybody? Yeah. Okay, so imagine your mom is like, hey, you need to go take your brother's lunch for they're like at practice for one of their sports or something, right? So David goes out with his little pail for taking his brother's lunch, and he's going up to see them. And he goes out there, and he's like, all right, guys, I brought lunch from Dad. And he's like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, what's this whole like standoff thing about? And David is just trying to figure out what's going on, right? David doesn't know right when he shows up that he is going to kill Goliath with a little pebble, right? He doesn't realize that that's going to happen yet. He's just trying to figure out what's going on. David gets on the scene, and he's like, I want to see what's going on. So check out this verse from the story. We're just going to read one verse from the story, and then we'll get more into it next week. You can go ahead and throw it up. There we go. Okay, ready? We're going to read this together. But not together. I'm just going to read it. I'm going to read it to you. Okay, here we go. David asked the men standing near him. So he's standing with all these other Israelites, his brothers and some other dudes. And he's like, what will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? So that's pretty serious. He's like, hey, what happens if someone kills him? And then they probably tell him about that. And then he says, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? David, he's like just trying to figure out what's going on. He says, who is this guy? Who is this guy who's telling us that we can't fight him and telling us that, he's just taunting them, right? This giant Goliath is just out there taunting him. And David's like, who is this guy? He gets on the scene, and all he's trying to do is figure out what's going on, right? The first thing David does before he ever fights Goliath is he shows up and he figures out who his enemy is, right? He figures out what he's fighting against, what he's up against. That's what David's doing. He's like, who is this guy? Who is this guy that's defying the armies of the living God, right? He's like, this guy's got to be pretty bold to be defying God. So who is he? And he's just trying to figure out a little bit about him because David knows this truth, okay? Here's what David knows. David knows that you cannot defeat what you cannot define, okay? You cannot defeat what you cannot define. David realizes that, and that's why when he's there, he's like, all right, I'm going to figure out what I'm up against. I need to figure out who this Goliath guy is because I can't defeat him if I can't define him, right? And it's true in our lives too. We cannot defeat what we cannot define, right? So if you think that, you're up against something tough in life, if something bad is going on and you want to beat it, right? If you're having struggles or an issue with a person, or you're like constantly losing friends and you have this problem, you can't defeat it unless you can define it, right? You cannot solve a problem unless you can define the problem. You cannot defeat what you cannot define. So that's what David realizes. So he's like, all right, who is Goliath, right? Who is he? What's he doing? 8th grade girls, chill out. Shh. Turn around. Chill. Chill. All right. So David, he defines the enemy, right? He defines his enemy, and he's like, all right, I'm kind of figuring out who this Goliath guy is. Hey, when I asked you to chill, you got louder. That's just like the opposite. That's just not cool. Don't do that. Thank you. All right, so he asks them, or no, I asked them. David asks them who this guy Goliath is, and he kind of finds out a little bit. He kind of starts to define the enemy, and then he's like, okay, I think I know what I need to do. And we're going to hear more about the rest of David's story next week. But what? Aw, that's so sad. All right, put your phones away. Did it hurt your feelings? Oh, I'm so sorry. That is so sad. Shh. Could you guys chill? Literally. All right, literally, please just stop. Okay? I literally just want you guys to be quiet for like 5 minutes. See, Grace gets it. Grace gets it. All right, so. Shh, bring it back in. Bring it back in for a few more minutes. Come on. You got it. All right. So David, right, he defines the enemy, and then we'll see what he does more next week. But in our lives, to define the enemy, we are not fighting giants. If you're fighting a giant, then you should probably call the police or something. I don't think there's any people who are 9 foot anymore. The closest thing you might get is if you get into a fight with Shaq or something. And if you're getting in a fight with Shaq, you should just call me. I'll come help you. That would be so cool to meet him. But you're probably not fighting any giants in the literal sense, right? The things we fight against are a little different, right? And Paul is this guy, we read a lot about him. Paul tells us a little bit more about what we're fighting against in his letter that he wrote to the Ephesians. So we're going to read this, and Paul's kind of telling us the things we are fighting against, right? He says, he's talking to these bunch of Christian people just like us. He's just talking to them, and he says, we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies. He says, we're not fighting giants like Goliath, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places, right? What Paul's saying here, it's pretty heavy. He's saying we're not fighting against just people, right? We're not just fighting against giants like they were, like David was, right? We're fighting against evil spirits and things that are influencing us in ways that you don't even know, right? We're fighting against sin, right? If you don't know what sin is, it's basically the bad things in the world. Everything that causes hurt and pain is probably out of sin, right? We're fighting against all of these things that we can't even see, right? We're fighting to stop them and to stop them from hurting us, and we can't even see them, right? So it's pretty hard to defeat the stuff we're fighting, right? We're fighting things like anxieties and depressions and things like our friendships being ruined and gossip and all kinds of sins that tear us apart, right? And if we can't define these enemies, right? Paul's having a hard time defining it here. He's like, it's against evil rulers and authorities. He's kind of just describing this big problem, right? He's trying to define it because he knows that we need to define our problems to defeat them, because he knows you cannot defeat what you cannot define. So you need to start thinking, what are the problems I'm facing in my life? If you want to truly start winning the tug of war that you are being pulled at in life, you need to start by defining the problems, right? Defining what you're struggling against, right? Maybe you're struggling against, like I said, losing friends constantly, and you can't figure out why. And maybe the problem that you need to define at the root of it is gossip or something like that. Maybe you just tend to gossip about people, and then when you gossip about someone, they tend to not like you so much, so then you lose a friend, right? Or maybe you're struggling with depression, and you kind of got to start to see, like, am I depressed, or is something else going on, or is someone making me feel like I'm depressed? Is there someone specific in my life who's just tearing me down constantly? You have to define the problem, right? If you want to defeat it, you're going to have to define it. You cannot defeat what you cannot define. So what is the problems that you're facing in your life? What are they, right? Think about it. Think about the things that you want to see fixed in your life, right? Everybody has issues and problems and things that just kind of suck in life, right? And we want to defeat them, but we cannot defeat them until we can define them. So start to define those things. Start to think, all right, here are the issues, XYZ, whatever it may be in your life. I don't know. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has different issues. But start to think about what things are stopping you from doing what you want to do, right? You're being pulled in these two different ways, right? One side is God pulling you towards him. He wants to pull you there. But then there's all these other things of the world, all those things that they were talking about in Ephesians. All those things are pulling you the opposite way, right? You've got friends pulling you to go make bad choices and do things with them, whether that's, I don't know, drinking or just gossiping about people or just being a toxic person. And then you've got God pulling you the other way saying, no, come with me, follow me. And then these other things are pulling you back the other way just as soon, right? Things like addiction and pornography and all kinds of things like that are pulling you the other way. And you need to define what you want to defeat, right? If you want to defeat it, you have to define it first. You need to define the enemy, right? We can't defeat an enemy that we can't see. So call it out. Be like, you know what? This is what I'm struggling with. This is what it is. And tell someone, tell a friend, tell a small group leader, tell someone about what it is. And then we can work to defeat it, right? Once we define all these things, we can start to work to defeat them. And that's what next week Savannah is going to be up here, and she's going to be preaching, and she's going to talk to us more about how we can start to defeat those things, right? Just like Goliath. After he defined it, then he could defeat it. But you cannot defeat what you cannot define, so you have to start with defining it. So that's what I want us to think about, right? As we just going throughout our week, think about what things are pulling you away from God, right? If you're the rope in this tug of war situation, and one side is God pulling you towards him, and then something else is pulling you away from God. What is that something else? Start to define what that something else is. What's pulling you away from your relationship with God, right? Maybe it's friends, maybe it's a certain thing, maybe it's an addiction. It could be anything, right? Start to think about what is pulling me away from God. And once we start to do that, then we can start to defeat those things. And if a whole group of us, like this big, there's like, I don't know, 60 of us here or something. If all of us start to defeat these things that are pulling us away from God, then we're just going to start going straight towards God. And when a big group of people starts going straight towards God, they start to make big changes, right? If you read about in the Bible all the time, when there's a group of Christians who are following after God, things change, right? Things in your schools would change. Things on your sports teams would change. People would be nicer everywhere you went. People would be nicer to each other. People would be more encouraging to you. You would feel happier in general, right? You wouldn't be being pulled in the opposite way that you know is tearing you down. You'd be being pulled towards God constantly. But it all starts with defining the enemy, because you cannot defeat what you cannot define. So start trying to define the enemy in your life. See what's pulling you away from God. All right. We're going to pray, and then we're going to be done for the night. But pray with me, guys. Join me. All right. Dear Lord, we want to thank you for tonight. We want to thank you for allowing us to all come here and have a lot of fun and hang out with our friends, but also to worship you and to really dig into what your word has to say to us. We thank you that you are constantly pulling us towards you, and that even when there are things pulling us away from you, you are still right there on the other side of that rope pulling us towards you. We ask that you would just help us to define the enemy in our life and define what might be pulling us away from you and to defeat that, God. We ask that you would help us defeat those things and that you'd help us define those things in our lives. We pray all this, and everybody said, amen. All right, guys, before we go, remember, Blast, sign up for Blast. We can throw that slide back up. And two things we say every week: you are loved and prayed for, and you are accepted here just the way you are. Have a good night, guys. It's 8 o'clock. See you later.